Hi there. House of the Dragon showrunner Ryan Condal just released the latest episode of his personal podcast on movie props. Though as he often does, he used it to give an update on how behind-the-scenes production is going on the latest season of House of the Dragon. And he said things are going a lot better because there's no major disasters like a strike or a pandemic, and they're in the same locations again, so things are going a lot more smoothly. But he also gave a really intriguing remark that they're going to introduce this new prop of something tied to lore from the books that's never been seen before. And it seems like he was strongly hinting that Season 3 is going to introduce Valyrian glass candles, which are the Westeros version of a palantir from Lord of the Rings. Well, like I said, he was going over how production is going more smoothly pre-production because he recorded this 2 weeks before he posts them. So he mentions this recording was made in late January, so that was 2 weeks ago. And he's been having meetings with all the directors. Everyone's in place. Things are going a lot more smoothly this time. It really looks like 8 episodes. That's definitive now, of course. But he also mentioned that they're mostly using the same directors again. There aren't like a ton of new directors. So we did have one new director, Nina Lopez Corrado, but otherwise they're using directors they've already used. That's fine, that's good, everyone's familiar. Well, let me read off the exact quote he gave, hinting at something new they're going to do. And remember, he phrased this in terms of a prop. Here's the block quote here. We have some really kind of specific things we need to build, prop things, for Season 3. One of them is a very in-world thing that we've heard a lot about over the course of the writing of the books and from the text of the books, but we haven't really ever, in my mind, I don't think we've seen it on screen in a specific way. It's not a big thing. It's a smaller detail, but I just thought it was cool to it was one of those things where you kind of have to read everything, all the little snippets, and put them together, take all this info and connect the dots and fill in the rest in doing an adaptation. Now, when I first heard about this filtered over social media a couple of hours ago, the way someone described it is, Condal said something tied to lore from the books that hasn't been seen on screen before will be in Season 3. So I thought it might be a concept or a location or something the dragons do, like an action. But then I was corrected that the next post said, no, he meant a prop, something physical. So my next guess was, another Valyrian steel sword. That we just heard the casting info for Ormond Hightower, the Lord of Old Town leading the Hightower army. The Hightowers also have an ancestral Valyrian steel sword. It's called Vigilance. So I thought it was that at first, because I hadn't seen the full transcript of what he said. Then I went back and watched the podcast for this. That it's pretty clear he's not describing a sword or a weapon like that it's something recurring. But he said it's not a big thing. It's something in the background, like a detail like that. So it's not like if he was describing Blackfire, he wouldn't describe it like this before Season 1. So all afternoon, everyone in the fan community has been discussing this about what could he be referring to, that it's a physical prop that's tied to lore things. And we've all pretty much independently agreed that the most probable candidate is Valyrian glass candles. There's a small chance it might be a dragon horn, that the Valyrians might have used horns to aid in binding dragons to them, but they pretty much matched all the riders already, and it doesn't really sound like what he's describing, so I don't think so. It really sounds like the glass candles. All mention of glass candles was cut from the Game of Thrones TV series, even though they're a pretty prominent thing in the Old Town storyline with Sam Tarly, which was it was just reduced to just this side quest that didn't mean anything. Whereas there's all these characters in it. There's Marwyn the Mage, is this maester who's controversial for researching magic, and all this other stuff that it's fairly prominent. Glass candles are these Valyrian artifacts. They work kind of like the Palantiri in Lord of the Rings. The plural of Palantir is Palantiri. That they're seeing stones that you can use for instantaneous two-way communication across the scale of an entire continent. Now, consider in their medieval society just how mind-blowing that is. in terms of coordinating army movements. That if they all had iPhones and in real time you could coordinate where their armies are moving, that's a major factor in the War of the Five Kings, that it's difficult for Robb and the Lannisters to coordinate where all of their different army groups are moving if they're not personally there. They do have the Raven network, but it takes a couple of days. More if, like over a week, if it's truly from like Dorne to the Wall or something, that rarely happens. And even then, you can shoot the Ravens. This happens more than once. That when they want to make sure that the Lannister army doesn't know where they're moving, they shoot down all the Ravens. That's what Robb and Theon do. And that will also happen probably in Season 3. That the lead up to, if you haven't heard about it yet, I'll just say, the battle by the lakeshore, an enemy army is surrounded, and they shoot down all the Ravens so they can't call for help. And it'll be a couple of days before a Raven was even due, so the other side can't get a dragon there because they wouldn't even know something was wrong for a couple of days. Imagine just how powerful it made the Valyrians, ruling an empire that covered half the known world, that they could, in real time, coordinate army movements all over the place. iPhone communication, like a Zoom communication between the capital city Valyria and Meereen, or Valyria and Pentos, and just how much of a game changer that is. That's only the basic uses. A lot like a Palantir on top of that, it's said that one person with just one glass candle can use it to look at other things, to look wherever they want. A Palantir does the same thing, that if you can bend it to your will to show you anything, though they're attuned to where the other seeing stones are most of all. Now the glass candle, they're called glass candles because they're made of dragon glass, obsidian, but they have a lot more magic spells weaved into them and melted into them. And for some reason, I don't think Martin meant this as a commentary on the blacks and the greens, because this came first, but they come in two colors, black and green, though we don't think there's any functional difference between those. Now, the Valyrians had them, so the Targaryens might have had some, but you get the impression that if Aegon the Conqueror would have used them to coordinate his realm better, if he was able to use them. So maybe they have some relic ones. It's become a lost technology. They don't know how to use it anymore. The Maesters of the Citadel in Old Town have a couple of them, though they can't really figure out how to make them to work. And it's even a test to show novices there's limits to knowledge. We can't get these things to work. But when dragons come back in the world with Daenerys, magic comes back in the world and they start turning on again. But they don't know how to direct them anywhere yet. So this would be a pretty big lore thing, and it might be just a cameo. It might not be this big game-changing thing because it wouldn't affect the story, because the printed story of the Dance of the Dragons they never come into. But if we just see bits of Old Town in like the Daeron storyline, and for the sake of actually having it on screen, they have Daeron going, "It would be great if we could get this glass candle to work. Unfortunately, we can't." Just to explain it's this lost Valyrian magical ability, that'd be pretty amazing. That's the first option that I think is going to happen, that they're just going to, not name drop it, but cameo, there's these things, glass candles. The thing a couple of people have started to speculate, which I'm starting to hope for, though I don't know if we'll get it, but probably won't. I forgot a line in the original description of glass candles. That if you look at the full quote about this, they weren't just used to look at other ones like an iPhone, or like a telescope to look wherever. Something that glass candles could do, the Valyrian glass candles that a Palantir could not, is it's said that they could even send people visions and dreams, that you could use these things to communicate to people through dreams. Anywhere, if you knew the right spells. So this is, in the past couple of hours, led to the theory of, what if Helaena is using a glass candle? I don't know. That maybe they intended to show in episodes 9 and 10 before they got cut off from Season 2. So many people got upset about that, and I didn't know why. Why is Helaena suddenly in a Weirwood dream? Two magic systems crossing. Your peas are getting into my mashed potatoes. And my whole thing is, Martin has repeatedly said, magic is unknowable, and my magic in my world doesn't follow strict rules. So who's to say that she couldn't, if she's a seer from Valyrian blood magic, enter his on the magical plane? We were thinking it's not a spell system like Dungeons and Dragons, so I didn't care. This is mixing magic systems. Martin doesn't do magic systems like Brandon Sanderson does. We're not dealing with that. It's not technology by another name. It's magic and unknowable. And I was fine with that, and I'm still fine with that, even if glass candles aren't involved. But what if they were trying to set up that Helaena intruded into his vision using a glass candle? Glass candles can do that. She might not have, and it does, even if none of that's just speculation people are having right now. Maybe Helaena, they're going to show her using a glass candle. I don't know if that's true. I'd like it if it was, but it's probably not. But what I do strongly suspect that he was saying is we're going to see like Daeron trying and failing to use a glass candle because he just came from Old Town where they have some. The High Towers do have some. Just to say, oh man, it would be so great if we could get these things to work so we could actually coordinate our movements with the Lannisters and Aemond. Even that, none of the speculation, just have it show they don't work anymore and they don't know how to use them as a cameo would be an amazing and fun lore drop because we got shorted from seeing those things in Game of Thrones itself. So even if it's just to show, this is what a glass candle is, they don't work anymore, and it has no other effect on the plot other than an Easter egg, this is still pretty exciting. So please tell me in the comments, what do you think Condal was referring to? I think it's probably a glass candle, but if so, how will we see it? I'd be happy even if it was just a cameo, an Easter egg, with the Hightower army and that it doesn't work. And then we'd have fun being able to tell a general audience about all of that. Oh yeah, this is this whole thing they cut from the main novels in Game of Thrones itself. It's nice that they're putting it in here. So please like and subscribe, and I will try to respond to every comment.